continuing with our game rental application, today we're going to see how we can use or create a stream writer variable to write into a file. So let's get started. Here we do let the user select a few options as to which game to rent and all the accessories to be selected, the shipping options, etc. So after we're done, we're going to create a message box to show what the user has selected. So let's just enter in rental, and that would include our rental information. We will add in the item that has been selected from the list box. So this is our game list box. The way to do that is to select the selected item. So this is the item that has been selected by the user. We can also add in our total price. That would include our total variable. We need the toString method to convert our double variable into a string, and that should do it. Let's try that. So here we can select any game and then check out. Okay, so here our rental is the Need for Speed, and our total amount to be paid is $2.5. We should add in a space right here, and we need a $sign to show the price. So now instead of using a message box and to keep track of all of our transactions, so let's say we're a real business here and we need to keep track of our transactions, instead of creating a message box for every single item, every time the user uses our application, we're going to create a stream writer variable and try to write all of that information into a file. Again, whenever trying to access a file, read and write into a file, what we should do is to use a try-catch statement. And here, like we said before, we're going to let the application tell us what exception happened, and we're going to use that in our message box. So that would tell us exactly which error occurred while trying to access the file. So we're going to create a stream writer. And remember that to use a stream writer or stream reader, you need to include the system.io library. So we already have that. Our stream writer variable we're gonna call output file. And now we need to create a file. So our output file needs to write somewhere, and we're telling the application to create text. So that would create a text file for us. And in here we'll call it transactions.txt. And remember that this file will be created under the bin/debug folder. Now what we're going to do is use our writer to write into a file. So we're going to use the write line. We called it output file. Okay. We're going to use the write line method, which will create a line for us, and we will give it this string. Let's create a string variable just to make it easier on us. We'll call it transaction, and let's have this whole entire string assigned to our string variable. Okay, that should do it. You can comment out our message box, and now we can write the content of our transaction string into the file. Do not forget to close your Stream Writer when you're done. And let's see what's going to happen. Alright, so something did happen. Let's go back and check in our folder. This is our application folder. We're going to go inside the bin, debug, and surely enough, we have our transactions file that has been created by the application. Now let's run the application one more time. And this time we'll select a different game. Alright, let's check. And it did create our file. Now, note that every time we select a different item or we use the application, we only have that one file from the last transaction. So it does overwrite whatever we had created before. One way to prevent that is to use a file that append text. Instead of using the create text, we're going to use the append text. What the append text does is adding information to the previous file that you had before. So let's look at our file one more time. Here in our file we have the rental referred to UFC1 with a total of $2.5. Now let's run our application again. Let's select a different game. Let's add in some shipping. Alright, now let's go back to our transaction file. And now we have both items within the file. So you need to differentiate, or we need to differentiate between the create text and the append text. The create text creates a new file every time we call it, or every time we run the application, it creates a new file. So it deletes the previous file and creates a new one. The append text does append to the file that's already created in your folder. Okay, so the last thing we're going to do is to use a different path for our file. So instead of having to store the file in our bin/debug folder, let's pick a different folder. Let's use that. So we're going to copy and paste the path. Let's save, start, and now we have errors. And remember, we need to use the @ sign to tell the compiler that this is the path to our file. So let's try our application again. So we'll select Call of Duty with headsets, priority shipping, and all of these information could also be included in our line. We can select different lines if we want to. All of that information could be included in our file. So we'll go ahead and check out. Now let's run it one more time. This time we'll select the Need for Speed with the controller and standard shipping. The price is set to $5.49. Let's go to our folder and see. And our file has not been created because we were missing a slash. One last time. So Call of Duty, and then in the next run we use Need for Speed with the racing wheel and overnight shipping. That would be $10.49. Now let's check. Yes, we have our transaction file, and it includes both of our rentals in here. Alright, so that's our stream reader. This is how we use it. We create our stream reader. We do not forget to add in a try-catch block, and then add the system's or the system.io library. And then right here, we create a string variable where we put our text that we would like to add to our file. We create, we use the append text method or the create text method, depending on what you want to do. If you want to create a new file every time you access this application or use the application, you can use the create text. Otherwise, you can use the append text, which will append all the new information to the old one. And then we can specify a path using the @sign. Then we write the line, or so that would write one line for every string every time we access the file. And then we go ahead and close our reader, and we're done. So this has been our game rental application. Now it's pretty nice and clean. It reads from a file, populates the list box, lets the user select the number of days for the rental, some accessories using checkboxes, some shipping options using radio buttons, and then it does some calculations in the background. The last thing we want to do is maybe clean up the code so we can add in some comments, remove some comments. We can also remove all of these methods that have not been used. Let's save and see. And that creates errors for us. So whenever we double click on a control from the form, it does create some methods in the background, and if those methods are not being used, then we need to remove them. And the way to do that is to go to this file, the Game Renter Designer file, and then we can comment out or delete those lines. So let's go to those errors one by one. Let's comment them out or maybe delete them. Save. All right, now it's working. So just remember, every time you have an unused method you want to delete it, you can go back to the designer and delete it from the designer.cs file and in the initialize component, and that would just tell the compiler not to look for that method, and that method is not needed. So this has been our game rental application. I hope this has been fun, and see you next time.